So first thing we're gonna do is get started with behavioral questions. So my first behavioral question for you is, can you introduce yourself? Just tell me a little bit about you, given like you're an OSU student, some of the things you do on campus, and yeah.
Wait, so what's the point of the BC, right? I was unmuting myself.
Oh yeah.
So I'm a third year computer science student at Oregon State University. Uh, I would say my focus is definitely on web design. I'm also working part time as a software engineering intern with the Oregon State University Sustainability Office, where I manage some websites for tracking energy usage on campus. Um, In my free time, I also work on some open source projects, particularly the Hitman gaming community. Um, and I'm excited to learn more about my work here at Tesla. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Nice. And could you talk a little bit more about your current job as a software engineering intern? So what does your day-to-day look like?
So the day to day is that this is like the bulk of my project is maintaining already existing projects, and we always need updates. For example, recently we had to update the Lambda runtimes from Node 10 to Node 12, or I think we're on Node 16 now, stuff like that. Or I'm always looking for opportunities to optimize the workflow and build what we already have. So, for example, I recently implemented a system for checking all of our API endpoints for our energy usage database. Kind of like do some data validation, and then it'll send me an email if there's like any errors. And this was something I successfully proposed to my manager, discussed implementation details, and then deployed it.
Awesome. Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you. Great. And then I also wanted to ask a little bit about Tesla and like the role. So we're applying for like a product manager role, but it's definitely very front end focused. So why in particular did you apply to Tesla, and like why should Tesla hire you?
Yeah. I'll be honest and say I became interested in this particular Tesla role because my good professor, Alexander Olbrich, has a connection with the supercharging team at Tesla and recommended the role to me. But even before the recommendation from my professor, um, I'm using Tesla's website, we call Power Guide, for my sustainability office work at OSU.
Hmm.
We currently use the Tesla's data for some of our solar panels we display on our own website. So I kind of already had an idea about Tesla from that. And I know a lot of what Tesla stands for is sustainable energy, like kind of like making a future where everyone can drive sustainably with electric cars. I
Yeah.
kind of think, and since I'm already doing some sustainability work with at OSU, I guess I'm interested in continuing that at Tesla as well as a engineer or product manager.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear that you have a background in sustainability already. You're a very good fit for the role. Awesome. So thank you for introducing yourself. Now I think we're ready to get started with the coding exercise. So the way this is gonna work is I'm gonna first ask you like a very simple coding question, and then we're gonna like just keep expanding from that, and then just you can treat it as like a collaboration chess. I'm not really gonna be. Um, I'll let you write the code, let you like come up with ideas. However, if you need help at any time, just be sure to call it out. So for this first question, it's a very simple question, but if you can see, I would say navigate to the app.tsx file, and I'm just gonna clear the app component. And the first thing I want you to do is when I'm gonna give you an input. So let me write in test input. So let's say I have an input name word, or I'm gonna say sentence. And we have this sentence, so this sentence is gonna be Tom is a cat. And then what I want you to do with the sentence is count the number of words in this sentence. And then you can do this in any language you want, but I highly recommend doing it in JavaScript and JSX. And if you want, you can just write it in the component and then just render the number of words in the sentence. So essentially what you'll be doing is taking the sentence as like a prop and then counting the number of words and rendering that on the screen.
Right.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So do this in Java and React, not do it in regular JavaScript, but my general go-to would be to split it by the spaces. That seems like the most straightforward method. And then, so there's probably a way to just do this with JavaScript splitting. It's too complicated to make a remix, but I guess I'll get started by making like an input box, I guess, since it seems like this is a front end.
Yeah, for sure. Feel free to edit the code however you see fit.
So if I want to open documentation at this point, like, it will be a way to communicate that.
Yeah, so you'd say normally I'd actually look up this because I don't have full understanding of like the method. So I'm going to look up the documentation for that.
So I'll look at the documentation because I generally know how to do this, but I don't remember all the implementation off the top of my head.
For sure. No worries. Awesome. I see your test in the console.
Sure if this works the same way on React.
Feel free to assume that app is receiving a prop called sentence. So what you could do is assume like you're getting a sentence. I'd actually destructure it. Sentence. Or you can also handle input as well, which would be a nice to have. So whatever you feel fit or more comfortable doing.
Wait, so the sentence already exists in the code somewhere?
It does not currently exist in the code.
So it's just up to how I put it.
Exactly. So I see you're trying to console log the input box. So how do you think you could make it essentially dynamic to whatever the input
I
is?
think the most rational solution is I should add a button and then when I click the button, then I should console log it out.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
or I made you guys like the stage moderator or whatever. If you want to try the other channel, it's an auditorium, I think it's called.
Oh, auditorium.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Jeff, let's move there really quick. Sorry to interrupt you.
Which auditorium?
It's on a channel right below general.
Yeah, so I made you guys stage moderators, so it should be all good.
Appreciate that, Robert. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you did it right. So could you possibly walk me through what you're doing right now?
I had a problem clicking when it was proper.
I see. Yeah, so the way we do it in React is just using a callback with the onClick. So if you wanted to pass that function in, you would do just button click. Yeah.
I need a value inside it. I'm just not sure I get this. Because when I do like document.get ID.value isn't there properly.
Yeah, what do you think about using, so while we're doing, I'm seeing your implementation. It definitely could be valid, but could you possibly do it in a more reactive way so that you can react to the changes? So I assume you know about something called state.
Yeah. Think about using like a use state or use right for this.
So that while the user is typing, if they just type Tom without clicking the button, you can essentially count the words as they type. How would you implement that?
You know how to import their React?
Import, oh yeah, so there's already use state imported. Yep. Yeah. And then you could just change this to react.useState. So what are you currently doing?
Trying to put I would input into a state array. So let's see if I can get it.
Excuse me. So you'll have to update this to be a callback. Or so you could do, so now you can just console.log value.
Okay, I guess we got to work.
Awesome.
I'm not really using this anymore. Let me comment it out.
So Tom, and if I click the button, it console logs Tom. Awesome.
I feel like I overcomplicated that. Yeah, that's like overall feelings like I know how to if this is a big project, I'm used to looking everything up. But if you ask me on the spot, you a simple question, I'm not that
I see. Yeah, so how would you count the words now?
Alright, so yes, I would say if this is a start, and then there's probably a way to split it in JavaScript for you. So I'm kind of thinking we just detect every space, right? And then we add one, probably that'll be a way to get the count, assuming each space denotes a word.
Exactly.
I know how to do it, but not how to do it off the top of my head, so I'll look to it.
I think you were on the right track with using the built-in method .split.
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. So why did you add that dot length -1?
That's just supposed to be the original. Yeah, I think it's wrong. Oh yeah, I guess that's right though.
Awesome. Great. So now if I type taco cat 1, I should get 3. Perfect. Great job. So that was the intro question, just to like get your feet wet. And yeah, awesome. So now I'm gonna clear what you currently have since you successfully solved it, and then we'll move on to the next question. Let me put that and clear this. Return app. Oh, I think I deleted the function. Just remove that. Okay. And that. And this. Perfect. So for this next question, I'm going to test like your knowledge of just pure React and see like what you can do in regards to like ambiguous requirements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a link to essentially image URL. So I'm going to give you some link to a URL. And what I want you to do is create a series of cards of that URL. So essentially like a picture gallery, but all of them can be the same URL. But I want you to create an array of cards, essentially. So yeah, I'm gonna give you this URL really quick. Let me get, second. So the URL is currently bugging. Let me see if I could just grab an image. Awesome. So here's the URL that I have for you. And what I want you to do is essentially show a bunch of cards on the screen. And I'm gonna say, can you have, so it's gonna be a count. So depending on what the prop takes in as a function. So we're gonna have some function, so function card. And this is gonna take a prop. And the props that I want you to grab from this function is the count. And that's gonna be the number of cards you're gonna render. So if I give you 20 count, you're gonna render 20 cards. Yeah. Yeah, so I want you to make a list of 20 cards. And you can style it however you want. It doesn't have to look great, but I just want you to create a... Yeah, so for the content, I just want you to create any type of like placeholder hello from card, kind of like what I have in the card component already. So I kind of set it up for you, but I just want you to expect that. And then I'm also going to set up the rendering. So card, and then it's going to say props. We'll say count. And yeah. And then I'm going to set the count here. And set count. React.useState. And then we'll set count to 20 to start off. And then if I render the count, I can just do props.count. And that didn't work. Let's just destructure it. Awesome. And to make it easier, what you can do is actually assume that there's also going to be a URL. And yeah. And then I'll also pass in the URL. So cons URL. And then we'll set it to this URL. So there's an example of the card showing up on the screen. So what are you thinking off the bat? Let me see if I can get you a better image. Yeah. So what are you thinking?
I might just put like this. I know what I want to do. I just don't know. I don't remember what it was like the React.js terminology, but as I'm trying to make a dynamic list of cards and then render it that way.
Awesome. So there's some built-in methods for doing that in React, as you know. So one thing I would recommend is possibly looking into state and creating an array of objects. Also no rush, but we have about 15 minutes left.
I'm thinking about, okay, it's not like these are different concepts, right? So I'm thinking about like doing like a array map, but I think that might be overkill since it's just like the same content just 20 times though, right?
Yeah, but don't worry about the content being different. Do it the right way.
I can look into the React array map next time, like that.
So we're currently at 30 minutes in, and you have until 45. So what was that code that you just pasted?
I'm still trying it, but it's the code from like it's a legacy, but it's like legacy documentation. But yeah, I'm trying things out.
So how would you transfer this to map a component?
Yeah. So
And where should the variable live, given that you're expecting a count in a URL?
okay, so
So I see that you're kind of going down the wrong path. Could you possibly think about where the state and everything else lives
yeah.
versus what the card component's actually trying to do? I feel like that could make it a little bit more clear on where you should be implementing the stuff.
The count's just in the React view state, right?
Yeah, so if you're given the count in the URL and we want an array, how would you create an array given that? I'm thinking maybe like a for loop where you create an object for each loop, which contains the count and then the URL.
So
So I think we kind of have to recall like what the card component's for. It's purely just to render a URL given account. If it makes it any easier, what if I just removed count? And then here, I just give you a URL. Five minutes left. So I'm gonna give you a little hint. So I'm gonna give you a state variable. It's gonna be cards and then set cards, and then that's gonna be a React use state array.
I'm too rusty at this, but my impression is you need to put the index and URL as into a card state variable for each of the 20, and then you do dot map on that array, that card's array. That's all it is.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Sounds good. Yeah. However, how would you access the state from within this component? Like, this isn't valid code. Because if you're setting the card state to the URL, it's no longer an array. So you're calling the hook within a loop, which is anti-pattern. And you're calling a hook within, yeah, so I don't think this would be valid code, but remember, this is just purely for rendering. this card component here, you're only given a URL and you have to show the card. So I think what your misconfusion is that you're trying to implement it in the card component, but not the app component, where the state lives. And you can't reset a state variable without using set state or set cards in this case.
So if the card is supposed to be like a ring object, try to set like these one like URL something.
Yeah, I can give you like a default value of what I expected. So or in this case, that URL that's above there. And what you're trying to, I don't know if you've checked out the program output, but you're getting a lot of errors because you're doing an infinite loop by setting a state within the main part of the component. So how would you counter that? Oh, it looks like we actually ran out of time. So yeah, we're gonna have to call it. But yeah, I think when you described like what your approach was trying to do, I feel like that was like a valid solution. So if you just kind of stuck with that, you probably would have ended up solving the problem. But yeah, you completed the first problem, so that's good. And yeah, so I guess now we can go into like debriefing. So, so at least like as like the interviewer in this case, in this scenario, I'm thinking like a lot of the things that you were doing weren't very clear to me, especially since you were doing a lot of Googling and since it's the nature of an interview to like see what you know, I don't think it's actually like a right choice to do that, because essentially I'm trying to see exactly how much like React and JavaScript you know, not some like arbitrary HTML, CSS, etc. So my one tip for you is probably just brush up on that type of thing and like just pure React. And then also my comment, like it goes hand in hand with like using Google is great, like we're software engineers, but I really want to see like test your knowledge, not Google's, you know? And then also like by clarifying, so notice how at the end you kind of clarified the question. If you clarified the question more up front, I think it would have been more clear on how to like go about it. And then also whenever you're coding in silence, I can't really like tell what you're doing. So I kind of want to like hear you like speak aloud and explain your thought process while you're typing. And I know that's like not inherently easy, but if you could give me like some comments or some way to know exactly what you're doing and when, that would be great. And yeah, also like I saw you tried using like set state and stuff like that, but that's just kind of trying to fight against React. So I would have liked to see more like following the pattern that I kind of started going with. So I could see how you would like take some requirements and then figure up to that spec. But yeah, all in all, you solved the first question pretty good. I will say that like you probably don't want to be like Googling how do you split a string in JavaScript in a Tesla interview, but I'll say that you solved the problem, so you have that. And yeah, I guess we can actually like just review the solution right now.
I've done things harder than this already for homework, because like JSA don't remember it that well or like enough to do it without looking at it.
Yeah. And then I'm just revealing the solution right now. URL. Actually, this is a card index. Awesome. So you can see that actually renders the card. And then if we increase, let's say we have like multiple cards. So if I do this, this, This is exactly how you would do it in any code base. Yeah.
Oh, wow, this
Yeah, so you were definitely like overthinking because of the pressure of an interview, but that's pretty normal. But yeah, so that's like the solution I expected. And yeah. But yeah, so thank you for watching. Peace.